What Vincent Baldwin uncovered beneath a quiet stretch of Virginia. Soil is something he still dreams about. It began as nothing more than a routine landscaping contract. The Hartwell estate sat on nearly 40 acres of rolling countryside, a sprawling, 19th-century colonial mansion surrounded by neglected gardens, ancient stone walls, and thick patches of uneven earth. The property had recently been inherited by Richard Hartwell, a retired attorney determined to restore it to its former elegance. Vincent had been hired to level a section of the backyard that had become warped by decades of erosion. He arrived just after sunrise. The air was cold and damp, mist clinging low to the hills. His breath fogged as he unloaded his industrial tiller and surveying tools. He'd worked land like this for over 15 years. He knew the language of soil, the way it shifted, the way it concealed forgotten relics of the past. But nothing in his experience prepared him for what waited beneath that yard. For the first hour, the machine hummed smoothly, tearing through dense Virginia clay. Then, without warning, the tiller jolted violently. The engine screamed as metal blades struck something immovable. Vincent killed the power immediately, he muttered to himself, assuming it was just a buried boulder. Old estates were notorious for them. Grabbing his shovel, he began digging around the obstruction. 5 minutes in, his shovel scraped against something flat. 10 minutes in, the shape became clearer. Gray slate. Perfectly layered slate shingles. Vincent stopped. Breathing, he cleared more dirt away with his hands. The slope was unmistakable. He was staring at a roof. 6 feet underground. A cold sensation crawled up his spine. The warming sun suddenly felt distant. He stepped back, heart pounding, and immediately called his foreman. "Marcus, get here now," he said. "You need to see this." While waiting, Vincent carefully widened the hole. The outline grew larger, not just a roof, but walls beneath it, carefully fitted stone blocks. Ancient craftsmanship. When Marcus arrived, both men stood silently at the edge of the growing excavation. "This isn't a shed," Marcus whispered. They contacted Richard Hartwell, who arrived within the hour, still in slippers and a wool sweater. The moment he saw the slate roof emerging from the earth, his face drained of color. "There's nothing in the records," Richard insisted. "Nothing." But records didn't matter. The structure was there. With Richard's permission, Vincent brought in his backhoe. Bucket after bucket of dense clay was removed. The deeper they dug, the older the stone appeared. Gothic arches carved into the walls. Iron hinges preserved by the lack of oxygen underground. Nearly 3 hours later, the entire structure stood revealed. A small stone building, completely intact, buried 8 feet beneath the yard, and at its center, a heavy iron door wrapped in thick chains. The chains were rusted but unbroken. Wax seals stamped with unfamiliar symbols still clung to the links, preserved in the darkness for decades. Vincent felt unease settle in his chest. This wasn't storage, it wasn't a cellar, it was deliberate. "Marcus," suggested, calling authorities immediately. Richard hesitated. Curiosity. 1. Vincent retrieved his angle grinder. As sparks erupted in the pit, the metallic screech of steel being cut echoed against the stone walls. One chain fell, then another. The air grew heavy, stale. 20 minutes later, the final chain dropped. Vincent stood before the iron door. His palms were sweating. He pressed against it. At first, nothing. Then slowly, a deep, agonizing creak. The door swung inward. A rush of ancient, stagnant air burst out, carrying the smell of dust and decay sealed for generations. Vincent lifted his flashlight and stepped forward. The beam revealed stone walls, debris, and in the center of the chamber, an ornate velvet coffin. But his scream wasn't for the coffin, that it was for what hung above it. Mounted to the ceiling was a massive granite slab, icily 2 tons, suspended by a pulley system. The ropes connected to a mounted shotgun aimed directly at the doorway. A thin wire stretched from the trigger mechanism to the door they had just opened. The trap had been set so that when the door moved, it would trigger the shotgun blast, severing the support rope and sending the granite slab crashing down on whoever entered. Vincent had been standing exactly where the trap was designed to kill. Police and bomb technicians arrived within hours. After carefully disarming the system, historians examined the coffin. Inside were the remains of Enzo Carlucci, a Mafia figure active in Virginia and Washington during the 1920s. Known for his paranoia, Carlucci had secretly commissioned the mausoleum under an alias. He trusted no one, not even in death. The trap was meant as his final statement, a promise that anyone disturbing his eternal rest would die with him. But there was one flaw in his plan. Time. Decades of moisture had corroded the shotgun's firing pin. When Vincent opened the door, the trigger mechanism had pulled, but the gun failed to fire. Had it worked, Vincent would have been crushed and entombed alive in that chamber. Investigators later concluded a landslide in the 1950s had buried the mausoleum completely. Over time, nature smoothed the earth above it, erasing any trace of its existence. For over 70 years, the structure remained hidden beneath quiet Virginia grass. Today, The chamber remains preserved beneath reinforced glass at the Hartwell estate. Visitors can peer down at the velvet coffin and the rusted trap mechanism frozen in time, a haunting monument to fear and revenge. Vincent still works landscaping jobs, but every time his equipment strikes something hard beneath the soil, his breath catches because he knows firsthand some graves were never meant to be opened, and sometimes the earth keeps secrets for a reason.